28. That is how many canon Star Wars movies and shows there have been since 1977, and LEGO has made over 1,000 sets for all of them. Today I want to rank every Star Wars movie and show based on the LEGO sets, and even take the upcoming Mandalorian and Grogu into consideration. Welcome to the Brick Collectibles Show. Tell me what Star Wars project has the coolest sets in the comments, and let's get into it. So we have a list right here. If you want to use it yourself, the link's in the description, but let's get into it with a new hope. Pretty much every part of this movie is covered by LEGO, from Tatooine to the Death Star to all the space battles, and the only part underutilized is Yavin 4 in my opinion, which got its best representation through 2023's Yavin 4 Rebel Base. The last few years have been a mixed bag for the first Star Wars movie ever, with sets like the new UCS Death Star being big disappointments, but some of the greatest sets of all time are still attributed to this movie. To name some of them, we have both the UCS ISDs, the first UCS Millennium Falcon, the UCS Sandcrawler, the Tantive 4, and the MBS Mos Eisley Cantina, to name a few, as well as 2011's Millennium Falcon, which is one of the best play-scale sets ever. Due to its incredible volume of sets over the past 27 years, it'd be a crime to put this anywhere but A tier. Something you'll notice after The Empire Strikes Back is that the mainline movies are different from the MCU movies I rated already, since they have gotten way more sets than those, and they're on average way better as well. There are obviously some duds for Episode 5 too, like for example the Assault on Hoth or the really divisive Betrayal in Cloud City, but at the same time there are so many bangers in the sub-theme. Most Hoth sets are fantastic. I mean, just think of the AT-ATs, especially the UCS one. Every Slave one from this movie is a hit, and who could forget 2003's Cloud City. There's no question that this film deserves its place next to A New Hope in A. As for the last part of the originals, Return of the Jedi has gotten just as many bangers as the previous two entries, with Andor being the focal point of this movie. The Ewok Village remains one of the most desired Star Wars sets LEGO has ever produced, and there's no way you get past the list of the top UCS sets without 2010's Imperial Shuttle. Now, many of the earlier sets have admittedly not aged very gracefully, and I do hope we're in for another B-Wing soon, which brings me back to the Ewok Village by the way, as another iteration of that set will be released this summer according to rumors. It's going to be significantly smaller considering it'll retail for $180, but I'm excited nonetheless, and Return of the Jedi will join the others so far in A tier. Skipping to the beginning of LEGO Star Wars, we've got the Phantom Menace, which actually has the first Star Wars set ever in the lightsaber duel. It clearly had its best phase in the late 2000s, early 2010s, where LEGO really pumped out banger after banger for this film, like the MTT and the Republic Cruiser from 2007, or the Anakin Skywalker and Sebulba's Pod Racer and Gungan Sub in 2011 and 2012. Overall though, the Phantom Menace is missing the big hitters that many of the other movies have, and especially the last few years, it's really been struggling, leading to it being the first entrance into B tier. Up next, we have a movie with one of the most legendary waves LEGO Star Wars has ever had, Attack of the Clones. That 2013 wave is still talked about more than a decade later, so enthusiastically that it would make you think they'd be talking about a movie much better than this one. But regardless of the film itself, there have been so many fantastic sets for it, thinking back to even those original 2002 ones. People have been begging for a remake of The Bounty and the Pursuit, and who could ignore the first Jango Fett Slave 1, which was even improved upon last year with one of the best UCS sets ever. It also had one of the most boring UCS sets ever in my opinion in Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter, but all in all, Attack of the Clones deserves its place in A tier. Now for Revenge of the Sith, I think I have to make it clear that this isn't my favorite Star Wars movie, probably on third place, but I wanted to preface this because I'm going to start glazing this film's sets now. Revenge of the Sith has nearly no bad sets. 2005 came out of the gate swinging. The ultimate space battle is still untouched in my opinion, and LEGO didn't slow down afterwards. 2012's Palpatine's arrest should have gotten a remake a long time ago, and especially the Kashyyyk part of the movie has received some incredible representation from LEGO. I know some people like to discredit the more recent sets, but I still think they're great, and Revenge of the Sith will be the first movie to enter S tier. Next up is our first non-mainline movie, The Clone Wars from 2008. This film hasn't gotten a ton of sets, but the few ones are very sweet, even if not all of them have aged the best. The Twilight, for example, is such a fun ship in my opinion, but it really needs a remake because time hasn't been kind to it, which goes for a few others as well. Of course, the Republic attack gunship is still incredible, even almost 20 years later, and regardless of what you think of it, the minifig changes this theme brought about revolutionized LEGO Star Wars. There is a point to be made that these sets don't sufficiently cover the entire movie, with which I'd agree, as they only focus on the Battle of Teth and the space battles, completely ignoring Christophsis, the actual Teth Monastery, or Tatooine. All in all, I think this movie fits in the B tier next to Attack of the Clones. Now, for our first canon show, The Clone Wars has had the great fortune of getting a shit ton of sets, including some of the best LEGO Star Wars sets of all time. The Republic dropship with AT-OT is many people's holy grail. 2010's Clone Turbo Tank is the best iteration of that model ever, and the Malevolence is still our only large-scale Separatist ship to date. And let us not forget the minifigures this sub-theme has produced over the past 17 years. I'm not a fan of the original cartoon style, but think of all the Jedi, clones, and everything we've gotten from the Clone Wars. Taking all of this into consideration, this show will enter S tier. Up next is Rebels, and while Rebels had quite a few good sets, many were also kinda boring, especially in comparison to Clone Wars. For example, there wasn't just one uninspired speeder bike set, there were two, and this sub-theme isn't big enough like all of the previous ones, where sets like this just slip through the cracks. Obviously, a set like the original Ghost or Captain Rex's ATTE remain great, and I think Rebels will all in all just fit very well into B tier. Now, let's get started on the sequel trilogy with The Force Awakens, and the sets are actually rather similar to the movie itself, in them being rather unoriginal. We got X-Wings, a TIE Fighter, and a Millennium Falcon, so if LEGO didn't go ahead with a simple color change, this wave might as well have been from the originals. This isn't to say that those sets weren't good, even if that Falcon has been outdone a number of times since, but there are definitely bad sets, like the completely overpriced battle on Takodana or Kylo Ren's command shuttle, which was missing some vital features. There are obviously highlights too, but overall, this movie doesn't score any higher than C tier. Up next, we have the second non-mainline movie in Rogue One. There has actually not been a single Rogue One branded set since 2017, which is insane, but the few sets this movie did give us were decent. From battle packs to scenery over land vehicles to starfighters, we got the whole bandwidth the sub-theme can give us, and some of these still remain the definitive versions of their respective models. It's truly a crime that there haven't been any new Rogue One sets since, but with the selection LEGO delivered, this is a comfortable B tier. Now, The Last Jedi is an unfathomably divisive movie, but undoubtedly also the most innovative of the sequel trilogy. That very phenomenon also applies to the LEGO sets, which introduced many new and fantastic models, but also some incredibly disappointing ones. Kylo Ren's TIE Fighter, as an example, is probably the coolest TIE ever, but at the same time, the First Order AT-ST is possibly the worst Star Wars set of all time. We can do this for nearly all these sets, but to make a long story short, this movie's sets particularly excel in the higher range, while they falter in the mid to low range, where pricing becomes a particular issue. I think because of this, The Last Jedi also fits into C tier, but for the exact opposite reason to The Force Awakens, because there's nearly no boring sets here. Up next, we have one of the most underrated movies and LEGO waves. We've got Solo here. Solo has been completely abandoned by LEGO after 2018, even more than the sequels and Rogue One, despite having some very solid sets. The TIE Fighter from this wave is still the best LEGO has ever done, and the Kessel Run Millennium Falcon was really something new back in 2018. This sub-theme's foil is its limited size, as we're missing some crucial parts in regard to Crimson Dawn and Dryden Voss, who was the main antagonist of the movie, yet has never gotten a single minifigure. Overall, I think this movie has some solid sets and will fit well into B tier. Now, Resistance is probably one of the most boring Star Wars projects I've ever gotten to lay my eyes on. I simply wasn't the target audience, but LEGO also only produced 2 sets for it. The Black Ace TIE Interceptor is such an incredibly boring set with pretty uninspired figures, and Major Vonnegu's TIE Fighter really is the only saving grace the sub-theme has. It's a really dope design, but given that it's the only good aspect to this entire sub-theme, it's the first entry into D tier. For the final entry of the sequels, we have the Rise of Skywalker, which more so comes after The Last Jedi, in it having some very divisive sets. There were great sets, like the Millennium Falcon or Kylo Ren's shuttle, genuinely obliterating their predecessors, but we also got some horrendous ones, such as the Dorito Fighter or the Knights of Ren transport ship, 2 overpriced messes. And despite some of these decisions, the weirdest part to me is that we're still yet to get Kylo's TIE Silencer from the movie. We've gotten what feels like every other starship, but not the one from the very first teaser, the first thing we saw from this entire film. All in all, The Rise of Skywalker caps off the sequel trilogy and joins both its predecessors in C tier. Now we have rated all the movies, so it's time for the Disney Plus shows, starting with the first ever Star Wars live action one, The Mandalorian. It was a little odd when the series came out, since it actually only launched with the AT-ST Raider and we didn't get a Razor Crest until a whole year later. After that though, LEGO released a bunch of Mandalorian sets, with some highlights in particular, like for example the Imperial Light Cruiser or the Mandalorian Fang Fighter vs TIE Interceptor. One set we definitely can't forget either is the UCS Razor Crest, which still is one of the best UCS sets ever in my opinion, and helps the Mandalorian to firmly secure its place in A tier. The Bad Batch is a difficult sub-theme to assess, given that despite its popularity and 3-season run, it has only received 2 sets. By comparison, just the first season of Rebels was accompanied by 8 sets over the span of a year. The show is also not helped by the sets not being that good. They weren't horrible and had some fun minifigs admittedly, but especially in terms of builds and prices, they were more than lackluster. Taking all of that into consideration, the Bad Batch will enter D tier. Up next is Star Wars Visions. Even after 3 seasons and a lot of potential for more outlandish sets for LEGO, we're still yet to see anything based on the show. I would love to have seen something from it, but for now, not a single LEGO set has been released in tandem with it. The next show is the Book of Boba Fett, and the LEGO wave actually matches the series very well because they're both mid. It was really nice to get the new Mandalorian's N1 Starfighter, but it was so oversized and Boba Fett's throne room really didn't look good, even though the figures weren't bad. Speaking of bad minifigures though, I know the Boba minifig originated in sets from the Mandalorian, but this sub-theme did nothing to fix it and it's still inaccurate to this day. Technically, Cobb Vanth's speeder is also part of the sub-theme despite being branded as a Mando set, and while the figures are cool, that $35 retail price should be a crime. All in all, I think the Book of Boba Fett fits beautifully right next to the Rise of Skywalker. Now, if we want to liken the Book of Boba Fett sets to the Force Awakens, Obi-Wan Kenobi is the equivalent of the Last Jedi. There are no mid sets here, they're either really bad or really good. Obi-Wan Kenobi vs Darth Vader is a terrible set that features one interesting minifig on which you'd basically be spending $50. On the other hand, the Inquisitor Transport Scythe is incredible, featuring new iterations of the Inquisitors as well as a perfectly executed build. In my opinion, this is one of the most underrated sets of the last 5 years, also dragging Obi-Wan Kenobi out of E tier and up into D tier. Andor's up next. Now, while it's the best piece of Star Wars to ever exist, LEGO has only given it 3 sets. Still more than the Bad Batch though. Those 3 sets aren't bad at all, they're nothing that'll blow you out of the water, but for such a limited number, they deliver the essentials. I definitely would have loved to have gotten a 4th set featuring Mon Mothma, given she's the last of the 5 main characters that hasn't gotten a minifig in the sub-theme and hasn't got one in general since 2009. Still though, these sets deliver a lot, and with just its 3 entries, Andor will join some prestigious names in B tier. Next, we've got Tales of the Jedi. I guess you could lump all 3 Tales seasons into one, but I'm not doing that, we're looking at each individually. There was some potential in the show for LEGO, as I think many people could have imagined a set featuring a young Dooku and Yaddle for example, but we just didn't get that, which is why Tales of the Jedi will go into the lowest tier. Young Jedi Adventures is a show I haven't watched, and most of you probably haven't either, but LEGO delivered 2 sets for it nonetheless. 4+ sets always have an issue when it comes to pricing, and these sets are no different, providing you with a combined 5 figures, I'm not counting those fuck-ass droids, and 260 pieces for $90, which is outrageous. The builds you get are also incredibly underwhelming, even for a younger demographic, and all in all, this is a show that goes nowhere higher than E tier. Next up we have Ahsoka. Ahsoka is a really weird case in terms of sub-themes, because it started on a very strong note but quickly declined after that. The Ghost and Phantom 2 absolutely stole the spotlight in 2023 after everyone originally anticipated the new gunship more than anything, and here my personal opinion comes into play even more because I absolutely love double packs, and Ahsoka gave us that too with the New Republic E-Wing versus Shin Hati Starfighter. After that initial wave though, prices were really dragging the show down, and the $23 battle pack in particular was a hard hit. If we only took the first few sets into consideration, Ahsoka would definitely enter A tier, but its follow-ups sadly drag it down into B. Now, while I was rather disappointed Tales of the Jedi didn't provide us with any LEGO sets, I can't say the same about Tales of the Empire. It was an underwhelming show, one I largely forgot, so I'm not devastated by the show not getting any sets. On the other hand, I'd have loved some sets for the Acolyte. Was it good? No. But our only representation of the High Republic in LEGO form has come from Young Jedi Adventures, and I really want some proper sets from that period in Star Wars history. There were plenty of unique locations, like for example the woods in which the Jedi Envoy battled Chimera, and the minifig opportunities from this sub-theme were incredible. At last though, there were no sets for the Acolyte, and with its cancellation, I don't think there's any chance for even a single set in the future. Skeleton Crew is our penultimate show of the day, and it only received a single set from LEGO, being the Onyx Cinder. While I want to see more sets based on the series, I can't deny its one set the status of an absolute banger. It's an unconventional build, featuring the whole main cast of the show without blowing up your wallet while at it. Even with just its single set, Skeleton Crew will go into B tier. Finally, Tales of the Underworld completes the Tales trilogy, and of course, there are no LEGO sets to accompany it. I personally think we should have seen some Cat Bane stuff for the show, and if that didn't happen, I don't think anyone would have minded a set focused around an upgraded Ventress. But alas, it goes into the lowest tier again, which brings us to the Mandalorian and Grogu. There have been 3 sets branded in the new box art, but none of them actually belong to this movie, meaning I'll be going over leaks for this one. So far, we know of 3 sets, with more reportedly on the way though. What we've heard so far though sounds very promising, including a new playscale Sandcrawler, an AT-AT, and another Imperial shuttle. The price range is rather high here. I truly hope that translates to quality too, but in general, I'm just excited to see these models revamped, especially the Sandcrawler and Imperial shuttle, and because of that, I'll put this in A tier just for its potential, which is subject to change of course. So in this video, I approached all these pieces of Star Wars on a surface level, meaning if you want a deeper look into one of these sub-themes now, I recommend you check out my retrospective of the Solo line on screen right now, but mainly I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, goodbye.